Welcome back to the Wealth Identity Conference, Women Owning Their Million Dollar Identity. It's my privilege to introduce Leah Hadley, an award-winning financial planner whose personal and professional journeys are a testament to the power of resilience and strategic financial planning. Facing significant life changes, including becoming an adoptive parent to 3 children overnight and navigating a divorce, Leah not only overcame these challenges, but also used them as a foundation to build her thriving businesses, Intentional Wealth Partners and Intentional Divorce Solutions. Today, she is a sought-after speaker, an accredited financial counselor, and a certified divorce financial analyst. Leah is here to share her invaluable insights on making wise financial decisions that ensure long-term security and confidence. Let's learn from her remarkable expertise and personal resilience. Welcome, Leah.
Thank you so much for having me, Deb.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Let's start off with your journey to becoming an award-winning financial planner is both unique and inspiring. Can you share what drove you to enter the field of financial planning during such challenging personal times?
I would be happy to. And I'll go back a little bit because I took kind of a windy road to get into financial planning to begin with anyway. I started out as a teacher. I taught in Baltimore City Public Schools, and I got really burnt out in the classroom. And I was swimming in student loan debt, and I needed a job. And so I took a role at an investment bank in Baltimore that was an administrative assistant role. And when I walked in that very first day, Deb, I felt like everybody was speaking a foreign language. Like I literally had no idea. I had a master's degree. I felt like an educated individual. And here I didn't know what people were talking about. And I was very fortunate there. I had some wonderful mentors. And my administrative assistant role was in the equity research department. So the department that researches individual stocks. And so I learned a tremendous amount while I was there, and ended up really kind of growing up in the equity research world. We got acquired. I went to another firm, and ultimately decided that I wanted to have a family. And equity research requires quite a bit of travel, very long hours during earnings season, and doesn't really lend itself well to being a parent. And so I decided that I really wanted to prioritize my family. And I had all of this great investment knowledge. Why not become a financial advisor where I could really help individuals and families to make a big difference in their lives? And so I went to one of the big broker dealers and learned all about kind of how to support individuals and their families and how to apply that knowledge that I had gained in equity research to really support them well. But what I found in the industry was that people, there's a lot of compliance, there's a lot of regulations in the industry. And so what people need is not always what they find at financial firms, which can be really frustrating, especially when you're going through a big life transition and you really need support. And so after my own divorce, when I really needed a lot of flexibility in my life and in my schedule, I decided to go out on my own and start my own business. Intentional Divorce Solutions was actually first. And what I found very quickly was that people would go through their divorce with me and want to stay on for ongoing financial planning and support. And so we very, very soon after that opened Intentional Wealth Partners. But it's been such an amazing ride. It was scary to get started, absolutely. When I was, facing all this change in my income and my expenses with my divorce and all of that. But I also could just really relate to what my clients were going through and really truly understood. And that has been such a big motivator for me to continue to grow the business.
That's awesome. Well, as someone who experienced significant life transitions, how did these events shape your approach to financial planning for clients?
So I'm definitely not just a black and white numbers person. I recognize the gray. I recognize the emotion that surrounds numbers. And I really approach financial planning with empathy, with compassion, with understanding, because especially when you're going through life transitions, there are a lot of different things that get triggered by talking about money, and get triggered by just dealing with the fact that everything in your life is changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it really has impacted the way that I interact with clients, just really meeting them where they're at, and helping them to have a very strong financial foundation so they don't feel like they're standing on shaky ground, to help them get through their transition.
That's awesome. Well, in founding intentional wealth partners, what are some of the hurdles you faced and how did you overcome them to build a successful business?
Oh, so many hurdles, Deb. I never set out to be a business owner. This is not something that I had like dreamed about for my lifetime or anything like that. Like I said, I didn't have a degree in business. I didn't have a degree in finance. And so, growing my client base, learning sales, learning marketing, learning all of the things that you need to do in order to grow a successful business, it was a lot of personal growth that had to happen in order to be able to grow the business. My heart was definitely in the right place, but I needed to develop the business acumen to go along with that, in order to really be able to grow a business that is resilient, in good times and in bad times. And so it's been a wonderful, wonderful ride, but I've definitely experienced a lot of hurdles along the way.
Well, that's nice that you can, kind of laugh about it now, but but at least it really, lets the audience know too that no matter how many degrees you have, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and so you just have to jump in, and there are going to be hurdles, and it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah. Can you discuss the role of an accredited financial counselor and how this accreditation benefits your clients, especially those undergoing life transitions?
Yeah, so I think my counseling designation really helps me to understand the emotional side of finances better, to really meet people where they're at, and to help them understand what does a strong financial foundation look like. Financial planners are often looking bigger picture, looking at the future, while a lot of my clients are having a hard time looking at the future, and we're really looking at right now and how can we make sure that you're secure and that you're stable right now so that way you can get to that next chapter. And so, it developed my listening skills, my ability to really understand what those triggers are. I do a lot of continuing education around people's emotional relationships with money so I can really understand where they're coming from. Deb, a lot of people bring baggage just even from growing up and how their family handled money. And so it might be something that was just a taboo topic that was not discussed. Well, that makes it really hard for somebody to reach out to a professional and have a conversation about their finances when they never even talked about it with people who are close to them. And so just really acknowledging that people are coming from a lot of different places and we want to be able to support them.
That's awesome that that's out there. I don't know if that was really out there when I was young.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Through your intentional divorce solutions, you assist clients navigating divorce. What key financial advice do you find yourself repeatedly giving to individuals in this situation?
Lots of advice for those who are going through a divorce. There are some very costly mistakes that people can make that I really want to help them to avoid. But one of the most common ones is really looking, I just mentioned that we want to make sure people have a strong financial foundation now and that they're stable. But sometimes when people are going through life transitions, such as a divorce, they get so focused on the here and now, they just can't imagine the future at all, that they're making financial decisions that are really very impulsive, that are not considering the future. And so what I help them to do is really understand what are the long-term implications of the decisions that they're making, not just focusing on the here and now, but making sure we're considering, are we keeping you on track for your retirement, as an example, right? And so that's where I come in, is really helping people look out beyond the moment and help them understand, how can we be tax efficient with the way that we divide investments? How can we look at whether or not you can afford the home and whether or not it makes sense for you to stay in the marital home? It's a big conversation. That's a real challenge right now with rising home prices and higher mortgage rates. And so really looking at understanding the entire financial picture and making decisions from a place of being educated and clear-minded, not clouded with all that emotion, in order to really look at both the long-term and short-term implications of people's decisions.
Well, how powerful. That is so powerful because, you know, you're dealing with two really huge emotions, money and divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to have somebody like you, uh, especially when they're not thinking straight. They're going through the divorce, so they have so much other things to think about that it's so powerful to have somebody. And I mean, anybody watching should reach out if you're in that situation, because I feel like, that could really make a difference long term, for the rest of their life. And I don't know what the statistics are, but I've heard that, after someone gets a divorce, that the man usually does well and that the woman ends up in poverty almost, that she doesn't, even if they split everything 50-50, it's just harder for women, I believe, that to be able to grow and to be able to go away from that and to really, make money and to be able to have that financial foundation for the rest of their life.
Well, especially when there's a big income discrepancy. So when
Yeah.
there's a big discrepancy between the two parties, they kind of divide everything up as part of the divorce, but the higher earner is in a much better position to really rebuild
Mhm.
from that division, right? Where the lower earner might be um, relying on spousal support, might be relying on child support. Those sources of income tend to go away over time, and they may not be as focused on generating more income for themselves. They might be looking more at, raising their children or focusing more on their kids, less on their career, that kind of a thing. And so, yeah, we do see some really big differences in the way people are able to sustain themselves post-divorce for sure.
Yeah, so I would think that that would be the first step, is to reach out to someone like you. So you help people across the United States?
We do help people across the United States. And I always like to tell people, there's no shame in reaching out. We work with accountants, we work with other financial planners, we work with attorneys on their own divorces. And so people who are financial professionals recognize that when you're going through an emotional time like this, that we all have our blind spots. And that having that objective person that can help you walk through the decisions that you're making can be really valuable.
Oh, sure, I can see that. Well, with nearly 20 years of experience, what are some common misconceptions you encounter about financial planning, and how do you address them?
So there's actually a fair number of common misconceptions. A big one is that financial planning is just investing. We look at financial planning really as a comprehensive, holistic process where we're looking at all the financial aspects of your life. We're looking at tax efficiency is a big one that we look at. We're looking at risk management, making sure that you have the right kinds of insurance coverages in place, making sure you have emergency saving strategies in general. We work with a lot of young couples who are getting out of debt and saving for their first home. Financial planning encompasses all of that. And it doesn't necessarily mean then that you have to be wealthy, which is another misconception that I hear, in order to work with a financial planner, right? Depending on the nature of your situation, there may be reasons why you're really looking at how can I optimize my financial situation? How can I make sure that I'm really well protected? How can I make sure that the investments that I do have are optimized, right? But really looking at it from, a full 360 view and really focusing on your financial goals. Everybody has goals that they're working toward. You may be in the very early stages, but we want to help you get there quicker. So that way, the right steps to take in order to reach those goals. And so that's a very common misconception, that it's just about investing and that it's just wealthy people. We work on different kinds of fee schedules based on the kinds of support that people need. And I think there's a lot of creativity happening in the industry where there are advisors that are popping up here and there to serve different populations in different ways. And I think it's an exciting time to be somebody looking for an advisor, because you can really find somebody who is going to be there to support you in the way that you need.
Well, when you think about the title of our conference, wealth identity, and then also getting women to $1 million identity, well, what does that mean to you?
So for me, it's really about wealth is more than just money, right? It's about that building that confidence, building that network, building that security in all different ways. But when it comes to building $1 million, we're looking at building wealth through investing and looking at how do we manage risk. Risk management is so important. People don't talk enough about it. But when people say I lost all this money in the market, in whether it was 2020 or it was 2008 or one of these times when we saw big drops in the market, it's because there wasn't enough risk management in place, right? They didn't necessarily manage through that in a way where they were making the best decisions for themselves. So it's really about understanding, how do I position myself well in order to be able to build wealth in lots of areas of my life, not just in terms of the money, but feeling that, I'm investing in my health, I'm investing in my social network, all of that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you. I like that. So as the host of your Intentional Divorce Insights podcast, what are some of the most impactful topics or conversations that have resonated with your audience lately?
So we just wrapped up season 1, which was fantastic. And our number 1 show was all about divorce support groups. So people feel really isolated when they're going through a divorce. I often say it's like, if we look at different things that happen in people's lives, different changes that happen, there's often, public celebration or recognition around those things, right? So if you think about getting married, there's a wedding. If you think about somebody passing away, there's a funeral. There's all these ways that we connect and really support one another, whether it's, the positive times or the difficult times, whatever. But when people are going through a divorce, oftentimes they just kind of want to close the shades and not necessarily interact with people or talk about what's going on. Mm-hmm. And so really the support groups are a place for people to connect with one another, to feel like they're not alone. And I think that's why that episode resonated so well with people. It's, a place where we have a divorce coach that facilitates our support groups, and she can really help people and listen to what they need and get them the resources that they need. And so that's been a very, very popular episode. Another one that was really popular was reframing the stories that we tell as a result of the divorce that we're going through, and really owning the story, being intentional, being thoughtful and purposeful about the words we use, not just in talking with other people, but talking with ourselves about, what does this mean for my life? And so that was a really powerful one about how you can really reframe your mindset. And even the words that we tell ourselves can be so empowering or disempowering. And we can choose which ones we're going to use.
I like that. Change, not only what you're saying to others, but what you're saying to yourself. Same thing with the wealth identity, changing what you say to yourself every day about your wealth identity. So I really like that. I'm going to have to check out your podcast. I like both of those topics.
Oh, please do.
Well, so looking ahead, what are your aspirations for your businesses? And are there any new initiatives or projects that are exciting to you right now, or that you're working on?
Yeah, we always have something exciting going on. keeps things interesting, right? Right now,
Yeah.
we are recording season 2, which will start in August, but we're recording the episodes now. And I really focus season 2 on understanding what people's pain points are right now. What are the things that we're hearing, and how can we really offer support in the form of the podcast? And so I think it's going to be a really empowering season for people who need that support, who are struggling through a divorce and really want to make sure that they're making intentional decisions, that they're being thoughtful about how they approach the process, about how they manage their emotions, about how they deal with communications. And so I'm really excited about all that we are recording for that. And then the other thing that we have coming up is our intentional investing workshop for women. And so I am just such a big believer that knowledge is power, and that, you know, it can really empower you to make such a big difference in your life. And so that's a workshop that we offer every few months. And you know, I'm always happy to share information about investing and helping people to build wealth. And it's something that really excites me.
Awesome. Well, I think a lot of women love the community part and being able to get together, even if it's a small community, getting together and just, you know, listening to others and pulling it all together. So I like that about the workshops. That's kind of what we're doing here with the VIP experience too, that they can get into workshops. We should probably have you come into one of our workshops. We would love that.
That would be great.
Yeah, and have you talk more to a smaller group and answer questions and things. That would be great. So that's awesome. Well, so do you have any other final thoughts, or how can the audience connect with you?
Absolutely. So I have a free Facebook group. It's called Watch Her Thrive. And there is such wonderful content in there. You can see some of the retirement planning workshops that we've done are in there. The recordings are in there. Some of the other workshops that we've done are in there. Just lots that you can learn and pick up. And just a great place to ask your questions. I always tell people, you know, stop shitting on yourself. So, you know, a lot of times people will say, I should know this, or I should have done this when it comes to finances. I hear it
Mhm.
all the time. Just take where you are right now. This is a moment in time, wherever you are right now. And if you have a question, ask your question. Don't be afraid to ask it. It doesn't matter if you think you should have known, or you think you should have done something differently. But reaching out and asking for help can make sure that you're really positioned well going forward.
I like that. And I like the name of your Facebook group, Watch Her Thrive. I like that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, Leah, your story is a powerful reminder of how focused and informed financial decisions can transform challenges into opportunities for growth and stability. Thank you for sharing your strategies and insights that empower individuals, especially women, to face their financial futures with confidence and intention. Your dedication to educating and supporting others through their difficult times is truly inspiring. To all our attendees, let's embrace Leah's lessons to approach our financial challenges with knowledge and foresight. Leah, thank you for contributing your vast expertise to our conference and for being a beacon of hope and strength. I hope you all reach out and go check out her Facebook page, Watch Her Thrive. I really like that. And thank you, Leah.
It's been my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.